Happy podcast day, Christy.
I mean, it's been a minute, Kelly. I've missed you.
I know, it feels like so long. How long has it been? 7
I
days.
think 7 days, but it feels longer. And you've been in another country, which like you've been in Canada, and that is another country. It's so far from the US.
It snowed. I was not emotionally prepared for it. I was like, I hate the winter. It's not even winter. It's the middle of April, for Christ's sakes. Fake spring. That's what I lived through. But I'm back. And I got to hug all of my girlies from there and my mama and my mother-in-law. So it was worth it. I refilled myself. I love that.
So your cup's full?
My cup is full for now.
Do you have a cup or a bucket?
It depends. I think I have a bucket, actually, and I don't think it depends.
Bucket.
I feel like no matter, like, whenever I get to hang out, especially women, I just actually love that we're so emotionally unafraid. I just feel so good after. I'm like, damn, why don't I do this more? It doesn't matter who. Maybe not everybody feels like that. Maybe I'm weird. I don't care.
You're not weird. I think anyone with good relationships with women in their life feels that way after being with them.
Exactly.
I think it's how you're supposed to feel.
I think it is how you're supposed to feel. In fact, I think you and I need it in person real soon. It's great to talk like this, but it's so different when you're in person. And so we'll do that. And maybe we'll record our podcast from your seat with your...
We 100% will. And I will be recovering from a hysterectomy and bladder sling and probably taking lots of narcotics.
Well, then it'll just be like every other podcast week, except for the sling. Okay, don't even give me...
No one needs the middle finger. So really quick, Kelly, for today's podcast, let's talk about what we're going to talk about today. Not in what we're doing in like a week. But do you remember the time that you, your entire team, you made them go like, I think it was like an intermediate risk team building on some sort of like huge tower that was terrifying? Remember when you did that?
Yeah, that time I burned 6 prepaid tickets to the Edge Walk because I didn't take into account people's crippling fear of heights. Yeah, that was an iconic leadership moment. I do remember it.
Well, iconic and slightly terrifying, which incidentally is also midlife reinvention. What midlife reinvention feels like.
Well, then welcome to Vertically Unstable, the podcast where we look like we have our shit together, but the truth is we're mostly held up by caffeine and emotional duct tape.
And today we are diving in to the question that haunts so many women between 40 and 60. Am I too old for this shit?
Spoiler alert, you're not. Let's get into it.
Okay, but first, Kelly, we had our listeners do a poll.
Yeah.
And our last podcast was about all of the things that you wanted to do as a kid and you looked forward to, but as an adult, they really sucked. Do you want to read off some of the best answers? Because guys, thank you so much for this. We got a lot of really great feedback, and we laughed, we giggled a whole lot.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, not a shocker. Half of it's the same across multiple people. And number one, grocery shopping. I think everybody agreed with me that that's some bullshit right there. and I like everything related to cleaning. So dishes, laundry, scooping dog shit, cleaning air vents at home, taking out the trash, cleaning, period. Definitely. And then bills. One of my girlfriends said, just put me back on an allowance and somebody else pay my bills. Fuck that.
Hey, I'm here.
I need a big allowance, but I agree.
Speaking of allowances, Pressa the other day was, so she gets $5 a week for completing her chores, which include feeding the dog every day.
Nice.
Twice a day.
Yep. You
know how much I have to fight for that dog to get fed every day.
I know.
And then also putting her laundry away. I mean, it's folded and on hangers and stuff, but actually taking it upstairs and putting it away. And then unloading the dishwasher twice a week. Just unloading it. You don't have to load it. Just unload it. And so last Friday, I was like, hey, did you feed the dog as we're leaving for school? And she's like, no, you can take $1 off my allowance. And I was like, hey, sweetheart, no. This is an all or nothing proposition. Yeah. You don't get to negotiate. Meanwhile,
Sunny's sitting beside the bowl like, I'll give you $1 to fucking feed me.
Someone fucking feed me. The other one that I loved, and it was funny. I mean, it goes along the Bill route, if you will. But it's like, when I grew up and make all this money, And the reality is direct deposit hits.
You're like, "Yeah, I'm a
Bills hit
baller."
harder and
Definitely.
your bank account weeps. Like, thank you for sending that in. That was really funny. And I laughed for at least 5 minutes on it. One of my friend's sons came to her and he said, "Hey, mom, I need a 10% adjustment in my allowance to deal with inflation."
How old
He's
is this?
11. He's 11.
I mean, did he learn that in school or YouTube?
I mean, I kind of feel like maybe he
I
listens
almost
to his mom a lot because
I
she's
feel
a
like I
real
would
smart cookie.
I would probably pay it if my kid came to that and talked to me about inflation and gave me a number. I'd probably like, "Let's negotiate. What do
Yeah,
we?"
well, my friend said this, "I need more value
Oh, you know
in
what
this
we used
value proposition."
we
She's like,
we
"So
used to
I'm happy to give you this 10% raise to
right.
combat inflation, but actually, why don't you just do more work and that'll be better."
I used to even threaten if you had the dog food, let's use that. Every time I have to remind you to do your job, it's not even if you don't do it. If I have to remind you to do it, I'm deducting because otherwise I would just do it myself. So if I have to remind you to do your job, and this is probably true actually in my regular world too, not just my kids. If I have to remind you what your job is and to do the job, probably you're not going to get 100%. As a
Yeah, so I'm gonna
rule of
start
thumb.
docking your pay for shit that I have to remind you about. Although I am one of those people that maybe need to be reminded at a time.
I don't know.
I have this like I go from like strategy to like details, and that transition's hard sometimes for me. Anywho, moving on, moving
Moving
on.
on.
But
We're talking midlife reinvention, also known as "Am I too old for this shit?"
and also known as midlife crisis because I
Ow,
feel
it's not a
like,
crisis.
well, hang on. I think back in the day, people like, got divorces and bought new cars and traded it in for younger versions. But today, I think we take a much more tactical approach.
Actually, that's fair. I think we should sort of put that under the heading of recognizing the itch, right? Let's call it the
Bitch.
itch. Not
I
the
mean,
7-year itch when you're like, fuck this guy, I'm getting a divorce, but just that point where you're just kind of like, is this it? Am I here? Maybe that's the itch.
okay. So it's funny because going with the theme of vertically unstable. So society says you settle in,
Yeah.
right? As you get older, you settle in. But like, I don't know about you, Kelly, but my gut is like, nah, let's shake some shit up. Like, let's do
Yeah.
something different. Let's
Yeah.
like, wait a minute. Wait, wait, I don't want to settle in.
Well, I think that we probably all have these like midlife fantasies. Like, what would you do? I think I know your answer, but what would your midlife fantasy be?
Mine?
Yeah.
Which parts of the fantasy, Kelly?
The ones that we don't have to change the status of this on Spotify.
Okay, cool. We're also mature audiences only, but okay, cool. Moving on. So for me, there were a lot of things that I've wanted to do in my life. One is write a book.
Yeah.
I know that's so freaking cliche, but growing up, I wasn't allowed to watch TV. Story for another day. Crazy parents. But I read a lot of books. Like and I always wanted to write a book and to share a little bit of like I don't want to write a book on marketing or any of that. Like that's great and I love people that do that, but I wanted to write a book that like entertained people.
Mhm.
So writing a book was definitely on my list.
But I think
Go ahead.
you should probably let listeners know that you are indeed doing that, right? Like I've read some of it. It's hilarious. And I do have some questions about your upbringing, but
I have questions about my upbringing that remain unanswered. So the book is called Diesel Unfueled. It will be finished by the end of the year and hope to God someone wants to publish it or maybe I'll just self-publish, but whatever.
I think that's awesome.
Thank you. It's really just a bunch of little stories about growing up as the middle of 9 kids in a cult and, like what happens when you go from being poor to your father making millions and millions and millions of dollars and having a yacht in the Bahamas to him going to prison for tax evasion.
Don't give the whole book away, but that's a
Yeah.
great trailer.
I mean,
Like,
hold on.
I think
Yeah, let's
everybody should realize that this is not loosely based on a true story. This is, in fact, a biography.
Also, maybe you worked for Mel Brooks in New York. But anyways, we're not pitching the book right now. We're talking about reinventing as it should be.
Well,
Reinvention. What does it
I
look like? What does it mean?
yeah.
So
I
the
do
itch.
like the
Let's recognize. Oh, go
itch.
ahead.
Yeah, the shake the shit up thing. I think it's funny, and this even goes back to our adulting responsibilities you thought would be awesome, and then you realize they sucked. You have these fantasies, when I grow up, I'm gonna do da 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 da, and you're doing those things, and I think at some point, and I don't know that it's always related to age. It might be related to just experience or how far you get. You're kind of like, I feel in my gut that I have more and could do
Mhm.
more, and there's some more authenticity in me that I don't get to do regularly. And so that's when you start thinking, what else could I be doing? I have a girlfriend who I love, and she recently retired. She took an adult gap year because she wasn't committed to retiring, which I love.
Sounds amazing.
Adult gap year. And now she's settling into, fuck it, I'm not going back to that. I'm going to retire. So when I visited her last week, she was talking about what she'd like to do next. And it sounded less like fantasy, like when you're little and you say, oh, I'm going to do this and I would like to be a princess. And it's just this like crazy brain drain of ideas, and more of a, no, like actually let's talk about this. And it was around getting a property. She lives downtown Toronto, has a beautiful cottage on a lake, but she was like, what if I just got a property in a little bit of acreage and I had some chickens? And she had an aversion to goats, and I'm like, what if they were baby goats who faint when you scare them, and we could put jammies on them? Think through it. um
I'm sorry.
Tiny donkeys.
Pause for a second.
Yes.
I have to absorb that. Tiny
Fainting
baby
baby goats in
goats
pajamas.
fainting in pajamas.
Listen, if you haven't looked at any YouTube videos of fainting goats and then baby goats in pajamas,
Writing this
I
down.
that and polar bears in the snow. Those are the YouTube videos that I watch when I need a palate cleanser from what the fuckery of the world is. So feel free. You're welcome. Cats and cucumbers is another one. But anyway,
That's creepy. My kid loves cucumbers. That's like his favorite snack ever. And
anyways,
oh, by
this
the way,
yes,
speaking of reinvention, my dumbass who has black thumbs, legit black thumbs, I cannot grow anything.
I can't either, but I
I've
never thought
never
of calling it
also
that.
I've never really tried. Well, they say green thumb. I think like the
I
opposite of a
know.
green thumb would be a black thumb. Probably red actually if we're going by like the street lights things, but doesn't matter. Anywho, my son Colton, there's many things he eats as long as nothing's touching each other. But his
Mhm.
two favorite things are cherry tomatoes, and he'll eat them like popcorn.
Right, but
And
not if it's a sauce, because fuck that,
fuck
and
the sauce, but and cucumbers.
yes.
So we have this little garden patch laid out in my backyard, and it's like raised and it hasn't been touched in years. And so one day, not this past weekend, the weekend before, I was feeling very, very like, I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna be that mom that like, let's grow a garden, buddy. Let's
No.
grow. Yeah. So here's the deal. I have $200 worth of garden supplies
So, oh, you bought the supplies and the seeds,
and
right?
the seeds and the netting and the gates or whatever because we have squirrels in our backyard nonstop. And then we also have Sunny who's going to be like, let me eat this. I don't know what you're doing. Can I tell you? Well, the pee will destroy everything. The poop
I know.
is useful.
Yes, you could use
But
that.
no,
Has it
no,
even stopped being cold there? Like, this
it
feels a bit
is. I mean,
early.
listen,
Okay.
we're into like the 60s and the 70s. And like
Okay.
today it's going to be almost 80.
But you didn't go all the way to getting wellies and Carhartt fucking overalls, did you? Like, you just left it to the supply. Oh, you did. Do I need to buy you a straw hat and you're gonna put it in your mouth like a piece of
Well, I
straw?
mean, I think maybe I want to be a good Southern woman, which I'm not, and put on a big straw hat and grow shit I don't eat. It's fine.
I mean, we
Isn't
talked
that
about
from Steel Magnolias?
yellows. Well, listen. How many times do we have to play these
Kelly, I know.
games?
You don't remember movie lines, and it's like my biggest disappointment with you, honestly. It's very sad. But in Steel Magnolias, Weezer, which most Americans, non-Canadians, would remember
I'm
when
gonna Google it.
she's the big bitch and she shows up always with like tomatoes and stuff, and people are like, they're like, what? She can't use these things like she does. She says something like, oh, I mean, the sooner my body gives out, the better. I don't eat this shit or something. And everyone's like, why do you grow these tomatoes? And she's like, because I'm an old Southern woman and I'm supposed to get out in the yard and grow things with a big fat hat on my head or something. It's terrible. I have to redo that. Jenny, my little sister, I'm sorry. I fucked that way up. Jenny would
I
be so
mean,
disappointed. She'd be
you
like,
could have kept going. I would bought it all.
yeah, no,
I
but
just was like,
basically, she's
these
like,
are
I'm an
she
old
sounds
Southern woman.
awesome.
That's what we're supposed to freaking do. We're supposed to get outside in a straw hat and grow shit.
Okay,
So
well,
I'm gonna
that's
try it.
on you. Get on that. I don't aspire to that. I too have a
Birth.
black thumb.
It's my birthday weekend, and I'm gonna
I
spend my
know.
birthday making
Planting.
a tomato and cucumber garden for my son.
Okay, and then if your son expands his palate to include red onions and olives, then he can just eat Greek salad all day. Grab some feta. Maybe you could get a goat. The
I
fainting
mean,
ones would be cool, and then you could make the cheese. You could ferment the cheese yourself and have feta. Look at
don't you ever
this
think that maybe you should be in Portugal making artisanal
artisanal.
cheeses?
Yeah.
Like, wasn't that your calling, Kelly?
Yeah, definitely. Milking animal nipples. That's my
God,
calling. I did have an aunt and uncle who had an awesome dairy farm growing up. I have made a lot of butter to the point where my Auntie Dale, who we
squeeze
have
a lot of
took,
nipples.
was like, I did. My Uncle Bruce used to be like, hey guys, like this, I think wasn't even for money. It was for food. This is what you're going to do at the farm if you want to get fed. And so we used to have to dip the cow's teats and that I use the word teat, but that's what it's called.
It's a teat.
Iodine.
You're right. It's teat.
And so we used to have to dip them in iodine before you put the sucker on. And the milking machine had the 4 suckers, but it's like one piece. So you would be like, well, hold it on. And the first one always scared the shit out of the cow, as it always does if
I
somebody
mean,
grabs a
honestly,
nip. And then you're
have
like,
you ever have
please
you
don't.
ever have you ever used a pumping machine for your breasts
I
for
have
children? Okay, I'm sorry. Go back to your story.
to blood,
We all
but
understand this,
we get it,
Kelly.
right? There's always a little bit of startle when it catches your first nipple. And so I was like, please don't kick me in the fucking teeth, big ass cow. And so we used to have to listen. I grew up in a really interesting way. So no, I never dreamed of artisanal goat cheese. I think probably if I could do anything, I would just get paid to talk. That would be my dream. But I do think you do get to a place where you're like, "I'm gonna shake this shit up," and I think that takes you to from the phase of the itch to the phase of the fear.
All right. So, and you're right on that one, but going back to the itch for one quick second.
Yeah,
I would love for our listeners, and Kelly, you're in charge of this because you do all our social media. When I say
yeah.
we, I mean you.
Okay, again,
What is something you've always wanted to try but you haven't yet? Like
yeah.
what is like I said write a book. Like I would love to be, I mean, not to get crazy, but I want to be an award-winning author. Like I want to like write this book that touches so many people and makes everyone freaking laugh and, is just something that becomes part of pop culture. So, dear listeners, what
Yeah.
is your
One
big
thing,
one
if you could
thing?
do it all. And if
Yeah.
I could, I think if I could seriously do anything, I would love to say stand-up comedy, but that feels a bit aggressive. But I would start with
No, no,
like,
no. Let's stay with stand-up comedy. It's not too big. I
what
want
do
to
you
be a
mean? Like also New York Times.
New York Times bestseller.
Okay. I would do stand-up comedy would be awesome because everybody has to listen to me. I get to swear and do funny things. I would also love to do a TED Talk. So somewhere in there, I do like to present. I do love it.
So the TED Talk. Let's talk after this. We can make that happen. We just need to
Okay,
figure out a
let's do
topic.
it.
The
I already
stand-up
have the
comedy. Can
topic.
I come with you on the stand-up comedy?
Of course. Of
Like,
course
can
you
I
can
just
come
like
with
be
me.
your bit person, just like sitting in a chair next
Yeah,
to
as
you and
long
be
as you're not
like,
don't be that bitch heckler who's like, well, you suck. You can't be
hmm.
that. But
There's
you
nothing
could
about me that's a bitch heckler, but okay.
okay, not
Unless
the bitch
unless
part. You're definitely
unless
gonna heckle.
well, I mean, if you're saying dumb shit, I'm be like, hey, bro,
No,
listen.
rein it in.
No.
Next.
Okay, so
Okay, fear.
we have the itch.
Okay,
Not that
international
sounds
bestseller author. Now
terrible.
you're now you're like, okay, we got money. Here are the 3 things I'm afraid of. How am I going to get paid? People are going to judge me and I'm going to look like a goddamn fool. I think those are probably the starter
Yeah.
fears.
So don't forget that you have knees that now crackle every time you stand up, and brain fog is real and you can't remember shit.
That's true. But wait, okay, so let's just reframe it then. Fear is not the stop sign, because those things are true. We're not 20. But let's not look at fear as a stop sign. Fear is the arrow pointing us in the way that we need to go and grow.
Yeah, I mean, I took 2 kids to Spain solo. I mean, that's pretty high risk, public meltdowns, and no tapas for me. I ate a lot of Italian, I gained 10 pounds, but still I did it.
Yeah.
So I'm still, like, coming back from that. We'll talk about that more on Friday.
Well, and while I did pay for 12, I did successfully lead 6 somewhat terrified people to the edge of the CN Tower. Now, was it a team building moment or team trauma? I will never know.
Right. Also, we should name this fear. What's this fear called, Kelly? It starts with an I and ends in imposter.
Yeah, I am imposter. It is
I am
definitely
imposter.
imposter syndrome. That, you're like, who the fuck am I to think I can do this? Meanwhile, you've got 25 plus years of wisdom and experience. And as our kids would like to say, I got receipts. That voice in your head, it's just scared. It's not right.
Our kids say receipts? What does that even mean?
Proof, mom, come on.
Sorry, my kids don't speak in receipts. They just speak in sus right now.
Yeah, okay, well,
Presley the other day
you're
was
ahead then.
saying,
When she says, you say to Presley, when she says, you give a topic, and if Presley's answer is, Mom, that sounds sus, like, I don't believe you, that sounds like bullshit, you say, Sister, I got receipts.
okay, this is good. So I'm going to write this down. Hang on one second. I learn a lot from these podcasts, Kelly, because your kids are much older than mine, and mine are still in the I mean, they're 10 and 6.
I don't
Okay.
know that it's my kids. I just watch a lot of trashy TVs. I got the goods, but you
I
feel free
love
to
that
use
you're
them.
raising your children based on trashy TV.
It's just, you're scared. It's not
That's
right.
fear. It's fucking.
Yeah. But it's a loud voice. That imposter syndrome is loud because it's the one that's in your head saying, what are you thinking? You think you can write a New York bestseller book? Are you crazy?
Yeah, that voice might be loud, but it's not your truth, right? Like, who put that voice in your head? Is that really
You.
your voice? No, no. I mean, Kelly, for you to say I put it in my head, you know nothing about psychotherapy.
I mean, not personally.
No, listen.
Who do you think put it in her head?
That's a whole other topic. But I mean, everything gets put in your head. Like, you have gray matter, like when you have little kids and you're like, whatever. But like your parents, people around you, everyone who said that you couldn't do something in your entire life,
True.
put that in there that you're like, no, I can't. But here's the deal, all of us feel that way, and you absolutely belong.
Yeah, I
It
think
doesn't.
it's
Go ahead.
no, I was just going to play off that a little bit. I think it's interesting. You go into any room, let's stay in work mode, right? You presenting or you're pitching or something, because I think this for me is where it shows up more often and then than in my personal life. You go in and you think, "Oh, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I've never done this before." And you think everyone at that table has their shit together. And then you get to the table, and if you can actually communicate and build relationships with people, you realize everybody feels the same way. They're all like one bad phrase away from feeling like the walls come crumbling down and they've been exposed as an idiot. My daughter sent me a message recently asking, Mom, have you ever been in the room and felt like everybody was just smarter than you or you're too young to be here? And I'm like, every fucking day, girly. It's called imposter syndrome, and every single person in that room feels the same way. So don't worry about it.
Find myself in a lot of situations looking around for the adults.
Yeah, exactly. The
Like, I'm
scariest
like,
part is when you realize, oh, it's me.
exactly. You're like, something's happening and it's
Yeah.
work, it's personal, whatever. And you're like,
Who's gonna do the
where are the adults? Where are
who's
the
gonna
adults? And
fix
you're like,
this?
oh, fuck,
Oh,
it's
shit.
me.
Fuck me.
But I think, it's something I always tell people this. And if it doesn't make you nervous and if it doesn't make you scared a little bit, it's not big enough.
I 100% agree with you. You should always do the thing that makes you just a little bit nervous. You should have things to fall back on or remind yourself what you have to fall back on. Every job I've ever taken, I took the one that made me scared. I knew
That's
that the
right.
there were going to be things in my experience or my background that I could, lean into. I always equate it to a stool. I've got a couple of the legs on the stool, but there was always going to be one that I didn't have. Not
That's
that kind of stool. It's not
no,
a
no,
poop joke.
gross, gross. I was gonna say everyone has that because one of the things that when I have interviewed at places, right? I'm like, okay, cool. There's three pieces to it, right? There's my marketing sense and what I know how to
Yep.
do. And there's that part of it. There's chemistry, leadership, and all those other things. And then there's institutional knowledge. So if you look at, like, for instance, if you're working for a company and you're looking to get a promotion, but they're looking at outside people, right? Cool. Okay, but you have institutional knowledge, you have marketing expertise, and I forgot what the third one is, but they're going to bring something different, right? So I guess there's never anyone that has a stool. Can we call it something else, Kelly?
I like the three legs. I don't know what else has three
I
legs. It's
mean,
not a The point is, it's not a unicycle. So you're
the
talking about the three
point
E's.
is no one will ever have the right amount of knowledge, both internal, external, and self-reflective, team building, whatever you want to call it, leadership. Let's call it leadership. That is perfect for the job at the time they were hired.
Yeah,
Right? You can
exactly.
get there. You
Yeah.
get there, but you have to take that leap. You have to say, you know what? Maybe I only have two of the three pegs here, but that third one, I'll get it real quick.
Yeah. Well, because you talk in terms of those three E's, right? You have experience, you have
I love that you
edu
just made it actually a thing.
It
I was
is
just
a thing.
babbling. Okay, go
It
ahead.
is a
Go back
thing.
to it. No, I'm sorry I messed that
So
up, but
it's
go ahead.
the three E's are experience, the things that you've done in the past, education, the things that you have formally been trained on, and then exposure, the things that you have been around that have informed you and taught you what you know. So your institutional knowledge is exposure. So those
That's smart. That's way
they're
smarter than what I said.
no, it's just formalized because
Thanks,
while I
Kelly.
may not have had therapy, I have had executive coaching, which is just like grown up work therapy.
I have an executive coach.
Well, you should ask your coach about the three E's and then
I
she'll be like,
will.
oh, yeah,
I will. She actually made me post our podcast on LinkedIn.
love it. Hope it
Yeah.
doesn't get me fired.
I mean, I hope not either, Kelly, but here's the deal, sis. I don't think that anyone at your organization doesn't understand who you are
I am
and
not, yeah,
love you for that.
thanks.
And
I
that
would say those are my two things, black thumb, because I can't keep anything alive and also can't keep my true personality from shining through no matter what situation I'm
why
in.
would you want to?
That's true. That's
There's no,
true.
I mean, it's the worst when if you're in a room of corporate drones, you're like, "Hey everyone, can we shake it off for a second? I'm
Yeah,
sorry, who are
exactly.
you and what do you do?"
Exactly.
And where's the okay, go ahead.
Just back to fear. I think this fear thing is just like, okay, it means you're onto something big. You're scared a little bit. You're onto
Or
something.
maybe a lot.
You might be scared shitless, but if it isn't scaring you, you're right. It isn't big enough.
Do you know about the three circles?
Like a Venn
You
diagram.
have your comfort zone,
Mm.
your growth zone, and your
Mm.
panic zone.
Are you supposed to stay in one of them only?
Well, here's the deal. Where if you want to really fulfill yourself and your promises and the things that you want out of life, you have to live in the growth zone. And you have to get as close to the panic zone as you can without getting into it. Now, sometimes here's the trick. You get in the panic zone and you have to find your way back to the growth zone because you're like, wait a minute, I'm now underwater and everyone is talking about it's a spelling bee underwater with a bunch of fish. For me, that would
Mm.
be like a panic zone because I
You
don't I mean, I don't spell,
don't
I don't
like the
really like
spelling bee
fish, and, also, I'm petrified
of
to be
drowning?
underwater.
Same
No,
girl.
no, not
Same.
of drowning, of being eaten by a shark.
Oh,
It's super
shit.
rational. My fear is super rational.
Okay. What if
Okay.
you're in a pool? Can you be underwater in a pool then?
100%.
See, I start to get a little bit panicky. It's funny seeing as I did a lot of swimming lessons and lifeguarding growing up.
Aw.
But those movies where somebody's like holding their breath and even if you're going snorkeling and you go under the caves and
I
fuck
don't do that,
that.
fuck that. There's animals down there, they're gonna eat me.
So we'll stay. That panic zone is a different kind of panic zone.
Okay,
This is just,
we're
we're
talking
talking
more
growth zones of
growth
change and
zone,
reinvention.
change. Yes, yes. But I have to make one point on the whole, like, Chrissy's afraid of the ocean part, because I really am. I love
Well,
it.
I mean, there are
But
sharks.
there are sharks, and here's the deal. So I'll be sitting outside during the summer and no one's getting bit by bugs. And I am covered in welts. So apparently I have sweet blood.
So you think
So
a shark is going to be like,
100%, I think the shark is going to be like, hey, hey, hey.
I smell you over there. You're
I
like,
mean, it happens with bugs. Why wouldn't it happen with a shark? Like, this is like just like being rational. I mean, everyone's like, that's an irrational fear. I'm like, you've never seen me around a bunch of bugs when nobody else is getting bit. I like come in, I'm like, I need antihistamine nonstop.
I'm not
Someone
sure that
save me.
mosquitoes and sharks are looking for the same thing. Although you
Listen,
sound like my
it's
son.
blood. It's blood. They're
We
looking for
live
blood.
we live at the ocean and we'll stand, you just kind of stand in the ocean. And
I do that all the time.
my husband's hates the idea of sharks as well. And he's like, don't be the furthest person out. And my son Brady's like, yeah, bro, because that's what the shark is doing, is going to grab the closest person. Nah, they're fucking zipping in there. You're not safer because you're closer to shore unless you can outrun the goddamn shark. So I'm not sure that your sweet blood is the problem.
I'm sorry. Did you just say outrun the shark?
I
Because
would be
they don't.
running. I know the shark is swimming, but I fucking am not swimming to the shore. I will die for sure. Have you ever tried to swim a triathlon? No, not
Actually, I
in the open
have.
water. In open water?
I have done
God.
one. It was a sprint triathlon. I was 28 years old. It was in
In what body
Austin.
of water?
It was in Austin, Texas.
It
I'm
was in a
going to
lake.
tell you.
Okay.
It was in a lake, which is more
Okay.
terrifying to me than the ocean, because in the ocean, at least you can see down several feet. In these nasty ass lakes, at least the oceans I've been to, Kelly, maybe we should talk about where you vacation. But my friends and I, they were like, we're going to do a triathlon, a sprint. And I was like, cool, let's do one.
You
And
need
it
new
was,
friends.
I know, right? But I've been stuck with these bitches. They're still around, Kelly. They're still here. But anyways, we did it. The sprint triathlon was half a mile open water swim,
Were you
which,
each doing each part, or was this like a relay?
no,
You
we
were
did the
doing
whole
all of
thing.
them.
So it was a half-mile swim, a 12-mile bike ride, and a 5K. So what I was not prepared for, I'm a great swimmer. That's the funny thing. I'm an incredible swimmer. Like, if you want someone around to save your ass, it's me. But anywho, I was not prepared for was being kicked in the chest by other
All
swimmers.
the
Like,
feet.
that was the part that was like, oh wait, hold
It's like
on.
a traffic jam.
It is. And I was like kicked in the chest multiple times. And then, I did all of my training for the bike ride on a stationary bike. I actually borrowed a bike. I hadn't ridden a bike since I was 12. And I borrowed a bike from my friend, and it was a mountain bike. And
Have you?
I get there to the race though, legit the race. And I'm like, shit, I haven't ridden a bike since I was a little kid. And you're like, oh, it's just like riding a bike. Just hop right
It's
back on.
literally just like riding a bike.
Yeah.
No.
Well, it took about 5 minutes, but I got it. And then we finished it and it's all fine. But I don't remember my point there. I think it was going
But
back to the
you were
sharks.
in the lake in Texas and you claimed that you can't see the bottom, unlike in the oceans that your bougie ass swims in.
I'm not saying I didn't say the bottom. I said a few feet below you.
I'm sorry, but I could ride a bike to the Pacific Ocean. You can't see for shit below you because sand and waves. So
That's
I'll
fair.
take a
That's
lake.
fair.
Although I'm being brave and I am not, because one thing I cannot stand is touching the bottom and
Ew, I
touching
know. Me too. Me too.
something.
I'm like, don't, no mud, no rocks, please, dear God.
Algae, fucking I'm with you. I'll wear shoes just to not touch it with my bare feet. Any body of water that is dark and I cannot see my own feet at the bottom, if I'm like floating straight up on a pool noodle as I do, I am terrified of something is going to bite me, just period. I'm not necessarily more scared of sharks, although that is a terrible idea. Turtles, fish, even algae, fuck it.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
Keep me in a pool. Well, I mean, so we're solidly into fears and worried about judgment, and we're worried about we might look like a fool or a fish might bite our ass. And at some point, we have to get to the next phase, which is really just finding your path, right? You got to figure it out. You feel good about this. You've decided, I need to do a shift. I want to shake things up. I'm a little bit scared, but I'm going to do it anyways. And now you get to that place where you're like moving from what the fuck am I doing to, okay, let's figure this out. In your book journey,
I think it starts with knowing your values, your strengths, and what you will no longer tolerate. And we'll get more into this because I'm having my own little midlife crisis, if you will. I'll call it a reinvention. But I think it really gets into, I'm 45, I'll be 46.
imminently
I mean, on
on the
Saturday, like
weekend.
I'm closer to 50 than 40. It's crazy. But, anyways, I think,
It's
go ahead.
nice over here, so don't worry about it.
Is it?
Go on.
Am I
Yes.
going to be okay, Kelly? Can I jump into 46? Is it going to be okay?
Jump into 46 because you get to 50 and you're like, fuck it. So you're getting there.
Well, I'm already at the fuck it phase. I'm very clearly
Okay.
there. Mhm.
Okay. So then
Okay.
you should be jumping
No,
in like your water skiing.
I am in fuck it. I am like, oh, wait, I'm not going to do something because maybe my high school boyfriend from 25 years ago will see it and not like it, who I don't talk to anymore. Like, really? Who gives a shit? Anywho, so we're back to finding your path. I think it really
Mm-hmm.
comes down to like knowing yourself and knowing what your strengths are. And I say your strengths because there are things that in my life I've like been like, oh, I want to do this, but I don't have those strengths.
Mm.
And this idea of you can be anything is kind of bullshit, honestly. Like you have to have three things. Have you ever heard my three things?
Tell me.
Talent.
Yeah.
You have to have the talent, opportunity, and hard work. You can only control one of those things. That's not me flipping you off. That's the other one. But I tell this to my kids all the time because, we get told you can be anything you want to be. That's not really true. You have to have three pieces. So I think it's really important as an adult who wants to maybe reinvent themselves a little bit is to know what are their strengths. Like, what are your true strengths that in this world of uncertainty and scary that you still feel good about?
And I think those things that are give you energy, right? Because I think I'm really strong in making decisions and organizing the house. Doesn't necessarily mean that that's what gets me out of bed, right? So for me, we'll go back if this TED Talk idea, one of the strengths that I have is in storytelling and public speaking. And so when I do those things, that's when I lose track of time. So that opportunity when you get into what they call flow, right? You're doing this thing and you've totally lost track of time is the stuff that I just want to do more of. As I am older, I realize I just want to do cool shit with cool people. That's what I want to do more of.
Do
I
you think I'm
realize
cool?
I do. I realize I'm going to have to pay the bills and do all the things that were adult responsibilities we now know suck. But when I'm not having to do those grown up things that are non negotiables, I want to just do things that get me in a phase where I have completely lost track of time. And if it brings value to somebody else and somebody else is impacted positively, that's a bonus. Then it's like, wow, awesome. That was great. So I don't think you have to quit your life to reinvent it. You can write your book on the side. I can do TED Talks in my spare times. I think we have to just look at micro shifts in this reinvention, right?
Talk to me about that because I'm jump off the fucking cliff.
Yeah, look, you already bought all your shit to build a garden and you're not even sure you have that first thing, which is talent. You're like, I'm all in.
Listen.
What you
No,
do have is an enthusiasm.
I am all in on everything,
I think it's
unfortunately.
I think it's one new class, it's one new conversation, right? I mean, I did the silks yoga class. Do I look like somebody who is, pink worthy for flying up in the air in silks? No, but is it even if it doesn't go anywhere, you come out of it and you feel so good about it. So it's just a
Yeah.
tiny little change. It doesn't have to be massive. And if it's public speaking and you're like, I really love it, but I don't have opportunities, is there an opportunity to do it? You could start a podcast. Do we know what we're doing? Fuck no.
How do you get better? Hey, how do you get better at push-ups?
Probably by doing more push-ups.
I know. Doesn't that
I
suck?
know.
That's the only way you get better.
I
So it's
know.
funny, Kelly, you say all these things and I'm petrified of public speaking.
Are you?
I am totally petrified. Like,
So I'm
yeah,
gobsmacked a little bit.
really. So speaking up in a forum, right, when we're having a conversation, totally comfortable. I am better on the fly. Like, let's have a conversation about stuff, but to go up and present, like, I
Because it's
literally
not because let me ask, is that because it's not two-way dialogue? It's because everyone's listening to you? Or
so it's because you don't get instantaneous feedback. And so one of the things that, like, you know, in my world of brand whispering and all that I do, it's like it's a conversation. It's not a one-way dialogue ever. And so when I'm like supposed to present something, I'm just like, and I'm not talking about like on Zoom calls. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like getting up on a stage and presenting something. And that makes me terrified. But what I've learned to do is to turn those opportunities into a conversation because then I'm comfortable,
yeah.
right? As
Yeah.
long as it's a conversation, and it can be even in a big room,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm petrified. Like, listen, sweaty armpits, like, you know, I can mopping my sweat up off the floor.
I think so. I'm reading a book right now, and I understand where you're coming from. There's a book called Talk. So it's the science of conversation and being ourselves. And it's written by a Harvard Business School professor, Allison, I should say, Dr. Allison Woodbrooks. She also looks like she's 20 years old, but I realize she isn't because she's well graduated and a Harvard professor, and I think a mom as well. But, anyways, what she's talking about is this whole art of conversation, and is really a bit of a negotiation and a skill. That's what conversation is. It's a two-way dialogue. And so you're making relationships in your conversations that are meaningful, and that connection is what you're getting jazzed about. And when you're public speaking in a one-way way, you don't get to do that as much. But there are cues there. I love the opportunity to engage even visually, and watch people react to my story. So I love to write the story. And then when I'm telling the story, if you get a laugh or you have people like, oh my gosh, you can see it in their face, or they come up to you afterwards, I like that. So and I think there's a bit of narcissism there where you're the center of attention. So I'm pretty sure that's where part of it's coming from too. But I just really love like capturing people's attention with a story. And that's what public speaking does for me.
Well, let me back you up there for 1 second.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of an expert in narcissism and narcissistic personalities.
A sentence which
And
on its own is rather narcissistic. I'm a bit of an expert
I'm
at being a narcissist.
no, I'm at knowing narcissistic behavior. You are
Okay.
not a narcissist, and
No.
feeling good, right? And being the
Yeah.
center of attention is not being a narcissist. So I just want to strike that from the
Okay.
record. It's stricken
Okay.
because
Stricken.
Kelly, you are not a narcissist. Because where
Okay.
you feel good is when you connect. And that is the exact opposite of what a narcissist does, just so
Well,
you know.
thank you.
Okay,
Well,
so
you're right. It isn't the story part. The telling of the story being about me is not what I like, and not all stories are about me. It is actually observing people's reaction,
the
and
connection.
that connection that I have made with them. And if I've caught them in a way, that's what I appreciate, that experience. So I will say that I am an architect of exceptional experiences. If you had to ask me in a business way, like, what are you good at? That's what I would say. I am an architect of exceptional experiences, whatever that is.
That's powerful. I just be like, I'm great at talking. I'm
I didn't even
great at building relationships. That's what I do. I do it on accident. It's just what I do. It's inherent in me. I'm like, let's build some relationships.
So we're
Okay.
finding our path. We found our path, right? We're just going to do a little bit of a test and a learn and a repeat and a fail fast. It doesn't have to be a giant leap into a new reinvented life. It can be a tiny, messy hop, and it can be a fuck up, and you can do it again. And then we have to leap.
Right. And you do have to leap. And what I will say, at least in my life, because I live very much out loud. And
Mm.
I mean, I try to like this time go to this like soccer game and be quiet, and it just doesn't happen. It's not in me. And I've spent a lot of
Also,
my
people would be
life.
like, "Are you okay? Are you sick
Everyone's
today?
like,
What's going on?
what's going on, Christy? You're not
Are you
yelling
even
positive
present?"
things at our
Yeah.
daughters. What's happening? Are you on your phone? No, but I think getting back to taking the leap. I think it's easier to take the leap when like if you look back at characters, right? And the characters that we love and our role models.
Yeah.
Were they perfect through and through? Absolutely not. Did they fail? 100%. I mean, I'm gonna use Rocky, so for any of you millennials listening, you're not gonna get the reference of Yo Adrian, but, like, Rocky failed again and again and again and again, and the beauty of his story is that he got up,
Yeah. I think the
and he
beauty
had
of
this.
every
Oh, go ahead.
story is I'm sorry, but everyone who's been successful, their stories were never easy breezy, easy street, like everything always fell into place, right? The Michael
No.
Jordan who got cut from his basketball team in his freshman year, like all that kind of stuff. Those are the things, and I know for my kids when they've had things that have been hard, and most of them have been athletic related, but it's like, okay, guys, this is the moment. This is the make or break. It is not about what comes next. It's about how you get up from this and what you're going to do, what frame of mind you go into. So we both are in moments of reinvention right now. And it's not a question of if we're going to get up, it's a question of what do I want to do next?
And how we get up, right?
Yeah, because we are definitely getting up. And so sometimes
Yeah, we are.
sometimes that
The whole
progress
party.
is just teeny tiny. Like I literally had a shower today, nailed it,
Winning, 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 winning.
crushed it. I think progress is key, right?
Yeah, it's with everything, it's funny. My sisters and I have a warriors thread where we post our workouts. It's just a text thread. Post workouts, we post like stories of when you ate too much. I mean, stories of weight loss, stories of like self-love and help and all these things, and a lot of funny. There's a lot of funny on there. But one of my sisters who's on a very different health journey, she posted today, she said, yeah, I've been really off the rails and I'm checking in today. Oh God. And one of my other sisters responded and said, it's the little steps. You've been on the journey, so you'll continue on the journey. And it's okay if sometimes there's 2 steps back because you're still walking. And like, I was just like, hell to the yes, y'all.
Yeah.
Every
Yeah.
single step counts
Yes.
and it needs to be celebrated.
Progress over perfection, right? I
Yep.
remember even you and I talking about this podcast and the how do we do this? And maybe we should change this and even the logo, right? Is this right? And then we're like, you know what? We can just put it out there. There's nobody who has to approve our shit but us. And what's the worst that can happen? We can redo it. You're sitting there from the perspective of an agency partner and going, oh my God, it has to be perfect to my customer. And I'm sitting there from the client side going, oh my God, I have to get it approved. And would it pass legal? Not for this, right? So it was like, okay, so if we change things entirely a year from now, who fucking cares? Let's take the leap, right? And even our first episode, where I think you were on NyQuil and trying to fight whatever that Montezuma's revenge flu thing
Not
was.
Dayquil, but NyQuil. And we were,
NyQuil in the day.
to be clear, that was supposed to be a
Test run.
test run, and you
I
posted
know.
it. And you know what?
I
But God
know.
bless you for that, Kelly, honestly.
It
Like,
was so
I
good
think
though.
okay, well, we'll just agree to
I
disagree. But
I
I
would
think
can I just I'm gonna spit some receipts at you. See what I did there? It is our most viewed episode.
Is it really?
It really is.
Shit.
So, well,
Is it our most listened to? Because like, I'm here for
yes.
the
When I
podcast. I
say
just don't
view,
need
yeah.
videos all the
Okay.
time.
When I say viewed, I'm just speaking in analytics period, all platforms. It is the one that has been listened slash watched the most. And
Really?
and I think probably because it is the most authentic.
Well, because
Right?
Christy's on NyQuil in the middle of the
No.
day, just trying to take a freaking nap.
No, it's just raw and real. So it doesn't have to be perfect every time. It can be messy, but just take a little bit of a hoppity hop.
Also, it's better if it's not perfect because perfect is subjective and everyone has a different standard for that.
Exactly.
So when I say, like, when I look for things, with business, with my life, I look for, oh, is it perfect? I don't care about that. Is it authentic?
Yeah.
Is my new question. Is it
Yeah.
authentic to me?
Yeah. I put my name on that. Does that feel like me? Yep. So,
Yeah, that's all I
okay.
got. I mean, 56 minutes of, oh my gosh, Kelly, we need to learn to stick to a script better.
I mean, progress over perfection. We literally just said that. So let's say, okay,
Literally.
literally, my favorite word. Okay, sisters of reinvention. This is it. One assignment. We got to give each other and all our listeners an assignment. One tiny step this week. One bold move. Don't get
Please.
arrested. Tell us about it.
We'd love to hear it.
Yeah, we're going to hype you up because every tiny step should be celebrated to your story about your group text with your sisters.
100%. It should be valued and celebrated. And just take the steps, whatever that step looks like. Sometimes it's like jumping off a cliff, and sometimes it's just taking one little shift.
And just remember this midlife, even though you're turning 46, whatever, it's not a crisis. It's a goddamn revolution.
Can I tell you something?
Yes.
Honestly, turning 46 feels very good to me.
I love it.
I feel like, I'm past the age of fuckery.
I think
and I'm
you have
actually excited about it. Things that used to rattle me don't sway me at all. And I mean, not to use the phrase, but my give a shit's busted. If you are not part of my circle and club and fan club, and I mean that clearly not in like podcast terms, but if you are not here to support me and love me and like let me support and love you, then I'm just not interested in your opinion.
Yep. I love it. I have a fuck it bucket, and some days that bitch is full, but I am definitely in the age of fuck it. I have done enough things. I've overcome enough things. I've been a great person, and I have wonderful friends and relationships. You don't want to be part, that's cool, but we're going to go do some cool shit.
All right. Well, Kelly, I love you. I just want to tell you that. I love you so much. And we'll be back soon. Yeah?
Yes, we will. We'll be back. You've got a little trip coming up again, but we will be moving on to
talk about that on podcast Thursday.
Yes, on podcast Thursday next, we'll talk about what dumb fuckery Christy got up to when she left the country again. No, that's jokes. We're not doing that. In the meantime, we're going to go rock a reinvention. That's what
take
we're
a step.
Do.
Just take one step that's uncomfortable. Just one.
Tiny hop. And if you trip, who fucking cares?
I'll catch you. Kelly will get you.
I got you.
Let us know when you fall. Just stay where you are. Is that what you're going to say?
We'll come to you. We have some duct tape and some, some good lawyers. We got you. In the meantime, stay vertically unstable and horizontally comfortable. Bye.
God, that's a whole other thing.